What is up everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be looking at Netflix shows that should have never been cancelled. The ones that I'm going to be talking about today have been cancelled on season 1 with a huge cliffhanger, which is the worst thing that could ever happen. At this point Netflix needs to be stopped, because it's always Netflix that is cancelling its best shows, and some of these are fan favourites. At this point I'm scared to start a new show that Netflix puts out, because I get very into the show and I get attached to the characters. The next day I find out it has been cancelled for no exact reason. So the first show Netflix cancelled that broke me is Julian The Phantoms. This show is about a teenage girl called Julie whose passion is music, has been struggling since the passing of her mother, finds herself leading a band of teenage boys, but the problem is they are ghosts that have been dead for 25 years and only Julie can see. Together the Phantoms, Luke, Alex and Reggie, help Julie's life, and in return she helps them become the band they never were. This show, where should I even start? I love this show and I love the characters, the story, the music, the overall feel-good nature. This show actually had the possibility to be one of the biggest shows on Netflix, but they fumbled. We missed out on a lot when they cancelled the show. There was so much to see and so many unanswered questions. Some of the unanswered questions they left hanging is, why did Julia and Carrie stop being friends? You know she hates Julia and these two used to be very close, as stated by Julie in season 1. And Carrie even cautions Nick about getting close to Julie, saying she's no friend.
Julie's no friend.
How about the big cliffhanger when Nick is bringing flowers to Julie and gets possessed by Caleb? What is Caleb exactly after? Because if you want to get close to Phantoms, instead of possessing Nick, why did you not possess Julie? One other unanswered question is, how can Julie be the only one that sees the Phantoms? Is it possible she's magic as well? Also in season 1 we get so many hints to Julie's mom trying to contact her in some type of way. So is Julie's mom really trying to connect with her, and is she the one who sent the Phantoms to help her? Or is it all just a big coincidence? Despite how popular this show was and how much it was loved by its fans, the reason why Julian The Phantoms was cancelled was because it didn't bring in enough subscribers. And apparently it wasn't watched enough in the first 4 weeks of getting released by the target audience it was aimed at. I would even go far enough to say that Julian The Phantoms is one of the best shows and better than some of the shows that Netflix has right now. There was even an uproar for this show getting cancelled across all social medias, and it even received more than 200,000 signatures. And guess what Netflix decided to do? Nothing. Alright, moving on, another TV show Netflix decided to cancel and never talk about again is The Society on August 2020. This was almost 3 years ago, which also got uproar and received 150,000 signatures worldwide by its fans. But guess what? It wasn't enough. And with all the shows getting cancelled, this one definitely hurt the most because it had the most potential in my opinion. If you don't know what the show is about, well, let me explain. After returning from a field trip gone wrong, a group of high school students find their hometown deserted, with its population disappeared. Now the teenagers must learn how to establish and run their new community while figuring out what happened to their town. Like I mentioned, this show had a lot of potential. I was literally glued to a scene binging this show when it first came out because of how mysterious and exciting it was. And again, they decided to cancel on a cliffhanger. Just like any other cancelled shows, this also has so many unanswered questions. And one of the biggest unanswered questions in the society is, does the dog actually hold the key? Because remember, we see this dog first in Newham when it's taken in by Ellie, which then in the final episode we see it again in West Ham when it gets stroked by Ali's mum. This is clearly not a coincidence, and the dog holds a wider narrative significance. I would suggest that there is some type of portal or a doorway that the teens can use to get back home. Another question that left us hanging is, how far would Campbell go? With all the things he has done, for example forcing Ellie's head under the water while she's taking a bath, and now that he has gained control over the town and took the leadership from Ellie, what is his vision for Newham? What is he up to? Another one is, who is Becca's father? We all know she's very scared for people to find out. Maybe it's Campbell. And last but not least, something we all want to know is if the fan favourite couple will last and what exactly will happen with them, which is Sam and Grace. Oh, how much I would pay just to know what happens in the show. If you didn't know, The Society was actually renewed for a season 2, but unfortunately COVID-19 halted its production and Netflix reversed its renewal due to increased scheduling complications. Now diverting from a serious show to a more family-friendly kids show, let's talk about Raising Dion, which we got season 2 after 3 years, which has now been cancelled. Raising Dion follows the story of a woman named Nicole who raises her son after the death of her husband Mark. The normal dramas of raising a son as as a single mom are amplified when Dion starts to manifest several magical superhero-like abilities, which is what makes this show very entertaining. This show was so much fun to watch and I love the characters. Plus, I was so shocked when I saw Michael B. Jordan in season 1. I didn't think he would be in Raising Dion, let alone a Netflix show. So for this show, the questions they left us with are: is Mark still alive, Dion's father, if you don't know who I'm talking about? This was a theory for season 2, but unfortunately Michael B. Jordan does not reprise his role in the show's second season, which is honestly sad because the ending of season 1 sets us up to believing that he's alive in some type of energy form. One other question is, what is the meaning of the end credits scene? Because in the end credits scene we see sometime in the future with Pat as the head of an army, where we see Dion first appear in the end credits scene and say the line, "I'm the mind mover, I move things with my mind," gives me an impression that Dion is enraged. Maybe because something bad has happened to a close friend or a family. Alright, moving on to the last one that I wanted to talk about, starring one of my favourite actresses, Sophia Lillis, is I Am Not Okay With This. It follows teenage Sydney as she navigates the usual high school awkwardness, family drama and the crush of her best friend, while also trying to come to terms with her abilities. I love coming of age movies and shows, and this was definitely one of the best ones I've watched. The friendship aspect of this show was definitely the best part of the show, especially between Stanley and Sydney. We definitely deserve the second season for this show because the main character Sydney is still yet to find out more about her powers. And because of this, one of the questions it left us with is, how does Sydney even get her powers in the first place? Remember, in season 1 she still doesn't believe that she has powers, and while she works on controlling them, we have little time wondering where she got them from. It is implied that her abilities are somehow linked with her dad's recent death, and Sydney even believes her father had abilities just like her too. And whatever the reason, after the cancellation, all of this has been left to our own imagination. Another question is, what are the limits to Sydney's powers? We also don't know if there's more to her abilities than only telekinesis, which we saw in season 1. One of the biggest questions is, who was actually following her in season 1? If you remember, in season 1 at the end, we see a person appear from a cloud of smoke, which indicates that the person that's been following her has abilities of her own. And most importantly, is Sydney the only one with abilities? Could there be more people out there with superpowers? There are so many questions left unanswered and so many mysteries uncovered. This show, just like The Society, was renewed for a season 2 until it was cancelled again due to the pandemic. Well guys, this is the end of the video. If you haven't watched these 4 shows that I talked about, you definitely should. Although they have been cancelled, their first seasons are top tier in my opinion. What other shows are you angry at Netflix for cancelling? Drop it in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video.